Welcome to Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic. We started meeting in 2020, so it's been well over 2 years now. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still with us, but Mussar has been around a lot longer than the pandemic has. It's been part of Jewish teaching for over 1,000 years. It helps us grow our character, and it can help us build resilience, which is very much what Equanimity is about this week. I will begin, as we always do, with a short meditation. So please close your eyes and get comfortable in your chair. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding. If thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema. Listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema. Listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, this is a rare third week on a particular soul trait. We decided last week, because we had a lot of material we could still cover, and because there's been so much engagement around equanimity, that we decided to roll it over for a third week. So let's see, this is where we want to go. So to begin with, I'm going to put up the same prompt we had last week. This is the mantra for equanimity. It's better to surf the waves, do not get crushed or swept away. I know some of you are here for the first time or maybe new to Mussar, so you can share or not, but this is a time, and I want to try to limit us to maybe 10 minutes for this section, just so we have, because there's a pretty extended breakout activity for today. So I'm curious, how was your equanimity challenged in this last week? Would anyone care to share? Yes, Wendy, and then Martin.
Well, I was inundated with ups and downs, so many ups and downs. I had to stop considering them individually. And I just started thinking about what's really important. And as you know, I always do the quick meditation before going to sleep. And then during the night, I figured out a way to deal with something that it's so bad I can't actually say it because it'd be like, gossip. But I got up in the middle of the night and wrote a letter, and I was pretty nervous. But I did give the letter. It was to my son and his fiance, and they just took it so beautifully. They just responded so beautifully. And this was to kind of save my husband and his family from some very difficult circumstances and hurt. And it just couldn't have gone better. And I just thought all of those things, all those ups and downs, seemed like they were gone once I took care of that really important one. So I'm thinking sometimes ups and downs come in so fast and it can kind of push away something that's really important. And so that's kind of the first time I've had to deal with that sort of issue, but it turned out nicely.
Well, thank you, Wendy. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad it turned out well. Martin, so you can remember to unmute, please.
There, okay.
Yep.
And so I really appreciate that trait chart where there was a questionnaire and it showed where we're maybe out of balance for the different traits. And so I know for me, it's I can be perhaps overly trusting and then just wait for the right answer to come from other people. And but when it doesn't happen, I know I get internally stressed. And so it was getting to me, it was getting more and more stressed. And I took some action last week, or actually earlier this week, a few days ago, actually. And I made a call that was necessary for the person that could really help. And he was so relaxed and offered some great assurance. But again, I was always like waiting for Godot. And Godot never showed up. So it was always stress. Anyway, so I took action and I felt like $1 million after that. And so the problem is still not solved. However, I have a lot more confidence that it's going to be solved. And anyway, so just, instead of trusting that I'm going to get the response I need, but wait, it didn't happen. So I took action and it just really helped, I guess, toward more of that balancing trait. So I'm most appreciative of this group and you, Greg, for offering all the methods that we can self-improve. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. And I think that's a great example, and that's kind of going to be our theme for today, is how our equanimity, when it's thrown off, the root cause actually isn't an equanimity imbalance. In Martin's example, he needed to take some action. And once he kind of took that action, the equanimity was restored. And, Wendy, it wasn't like all these little things, perhaps. That was more of a symptom of like, wow, there was a bigger underlying thing that really needed to get taken care of. And once that got taken care of, the soul quieted. I don't know if it's Paul or Carrie.
Yeah, both. But I raised my hand first, so I'm going first.
Well,
So
I don't do marital counseling, so
No.
you'll have to work out on your own.
So I had something happen at work where I had, I've got a new position. I'm head of training. It's sort of a new territory for me and new responsibilities. And for the most part, it's been working out really well. But then I got this information about somebody else who was providing some snippet about training or something like that. And like I saw red. That rarely happens for me, but it has happened in the past. And I just knew that it was like, I had no idea. I mean, I knew like why I was feeling such rage, but I didn't know like why I was feeling this level of rage. I mean, it just was, and how to surf that wave is what I was trying to think of. And I knew that I needed to do something, but I really didn't trust myself for a long time. And so I talked with Carrie about it, and she had some great insights. She knows me really well. She's seen me go through ups and downs, and it gave me some of her thoughts about it, how to kind of what I might do to respond. And it's that right action. Taking the right action is where it can resolve that tension, because part of it for me was feeling like there was a boundary crossed, and then how do I address this? I mean, it's somebody I work with, somebody I respect, but clearly something, it just triggered something that had nothing to do with this person and nothing to do with this particular interaction at all. And if I tried to respond in that way, it would have been entirely inappropriate for so many reasons. So I think that finding the balance, I think it's interesting, as you said, Greg, that it's that right action, finding what that is can help restore that balance. So I will I'll give the rest of my time over to my colleague sitting next to me.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Carrie.
I've been thinking about equanimity a lot the past couple of weeks, and I thought that life was going pretty smoothly. And then I realized that every time I have my grandchildren, which is twice a week, I have to deal with equanimity the whole day, because I might have a plan, but it's not going to go as planned, and it never does. So there's the thought out. I think out the day what we're going to do, and then 10 to 1 is going to be something totally different. And also my granddaughter has special needs, so that's always interesting. So I realized that twice a week at least I am dealing with a big wave, but so far I've been able to manage it pretty well. And the other thing, and I just was reminded of this, my father, who's 102, lives with my sister, is not doing real well. And the past 2 weeks, I've been getting a lot of text messages about what he's doing or not doing, the weirdness. And my sister's not a talker, so she texts me to vent, and I'm not quite sure how to respond other than sympathetically. But that puts me in a heightened state of alert, because I don't know if my father's going to die today or not, or what I can do. So that's I'm pretty calm about it, because he's, as he put it, he's had his ride on the merry-go-round. But the emotions, I'm ready for my dad to die. I'm okay with that. My sister's not. So there's it's a difficult road. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but it's difficult to manage, to maneuver, to ride through. And so far it's been okay, but it's a challenge, kind of challenge.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Thank you for sharing that. And we're listening with an open heart, and it sounds like some good self-observation, just kind of noticing your reactions to these situations, and some small regular waves, and then, sort of a big wave that's kind of somewhere offshore, and you don't know when it's going to arrive. Okay, so we have Karen and then Marianne.
Okay. I have learned by trial and a lot of errors to develop a relatively comfortable equanimity for me. And so I decided this week that I would look for some mantras and analogies related to equanimity, other ideas of how people see this, and maybe they would be helpful to me as I continue on the journey. So I wanted to share some of what I found at a website called 10% Happier, which I know for their meditation studies. And here are a couple of my favorite takeaways. That equanimity is a spacious awareness. I really love this. And my take is that it results from distance that allows me to evaluate and reflect before acting. This big spacious awareness. The other is that equanimity, this was more of a mantra for me. If I can see beyond judgment and self-interest, then I can realize that I have a choice to make instead of just blindly reacting. I wish I could put that into fewer words. I can't yet. In relation to the spacious awareness, something else that occurred to me is that it's like an experience of really being grounded in between extremes, because I think that's what unbalances us, the extremes. And then I read these wonderful analogies. There are 4. One is that equanimity can feel internally like a great mountain, with a mind solid and stable, undisturbed by changing seasons. Or it can be like the ocean, with the mind vast, deep, and immeasurable, undisturbed by whatever swims, floats, or is housed in its waters. Equanimity can be like a strong fire, roaring, engulfing, and transmuting, undisturbed by whatever is thrown into it. Or like immense space, open, allowing, and receiving, undisturbed by the objects that arise and pass away. And so I'm going to work with those going forward, as I said about continuing my journey of attaining equanimity as often as possible.
Thank you, Karen. Some great analogies there, and some of those are going to very similar to kind of what we'll be looking at in just a couple minutes. So we'll hear from Marianne, and then we're going to move on so that we can have plenty of time for our exercise and breakout today.
So my equanimity is disturbed by myself, by all the crap that goes through my head. And I was watching a presentation on trauma today, and they drew a connection between childhood trauma and things that we go through today and how we react. So I was lucky enough to have a meeting with a counselor today who did some trauma work with me. And I don't know if it, beginner's luck, but I'll tell you what, it made a huge difference. So I feel like I can maybe I can do this equanimity thing.
Well, thank you. And sometimes, the soul trait that shows up is the one that we need to be working on. And it's, you found a counselor who was really helpful during this kind of window, and that was sort of top of mind. And I'm really happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Okay, so next what we're going to do is we'll take a look at, we'll do a little bit of a review of what some of the definitions of equanimity that we looked at, along with some new ones. So first we talked about Rabbi Simcha Zissel Ziv, who said, if you obtain peace of mind, you've gained everything. And in order to obtain peace of mind, you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires. And so we noted last week that he didn't say squash your emotions and desires. He didn't say ignore them. He didn't say you won't have strong emotions and desires. It's being at peace with them, and so the second one, I think, is new for today, the second and third. So may I have a volunteer to read the second bullet out loud, please? Yes, Lorene.
Can't see all of it though. Mussar scholars describe equanimity as a state of being through something.
Through which?
Through a state of being through
which a person
can face any situation without being moved from a certainty of self, may I say?
A centered self.
A centered self, a certain centered, yes. And Rabbi Jennifer Gibbs,
Yes.
a Torah commentary. That's very good. The center, without there's a stability there,
Yes.
and being in charge of yourself,
Mhm. Yeah.
being aware of your state of mind that you're going through.
Mhm.
You read the next one, or do you
Sure.
want to someone else? Equanimity is separating the higher mind. Oh, this is interesting, from the thinking mind. We always assume that the thinking mind is the higher mind.
Mm.
So what's the higher mind going to be? Intuition of some sort? Stepping into the role of watcher. Yes, that watcher that watches our thinking. Eckhart Tolle's concept of a deep something self. I think that'll be good.
Deeper
Behind.
self.
What is it?
A deeper self.
A deeper self. Behind or underneath the thought is who we strive to be when we practice equanimity. It's that, in the philosophy courses I took, they had a word for it, like a little gnome or something that watches everything that we think. I forget what it was called. That's wonderful. Thank you. I'm a little. I'm trying to walk because I've got problems in my legs. So please excuse me.
Sure, no problem. I've put all of these in the chat. And so what are like some of the themes? Like what questions you have, or what are some of the themes about equanimity that you can see see here? Yeah, Martin. You can remember to unmute, please.
Thank you. This reminds me of my comment from last week, was about the astronaut being in outer space looking down on the Earth. And so here's the thinking mind, all the little minutia of struggle, whereas from afar, then the higher mind actually can look, hey, okay, let's take a look at a bigger, from a far look, I guess, at a farther perspective, kind of see all the little parts that are coagulating in our thinking mind. So
Yeah,
that's my analogy.
yeah, no, that was well said. That was well said. It's easy to kind of fall into the illusion that the thinking mind is actually who we are. But this idea of the higher mind is there's actually our true self. Some people call it the ego mind and the true self. There's a lot of different vocabulary, but there's something which is sort of back there, was that part of Paul that was saying, whoa, I don't know what has set me off here, but there is something bigger going on than just this situation. And that asking of that question, that's the higher mind, or, yeah. So Wendy, did I see your hand as well?
Yes. In these three quotes, I see encouragement of us to actually own this, take hold of it, and actually do something. It's not just going to happen. So in the first one, you need to be at peace. That means you're doing something. And then you are facing the situation. You're doing something. And then again, the last one, you are stepping into the role of watcher, or getting on the surfboard so you can surf the wave. So this, over and above many of the other traits, I feel like there is a lot more activity we're held to more responsibility of this, taking hold of this and making it happen.
Yeah, that's well said, Wendy. And again, this is why I teach this one late, because it takes some degree of practice to get here. You know, when we're really activated or really upset or really kind of giddy, if that's the first time you're trying to practice equanimity, then it's a tough road. It's, you know, when we've developed a Mussar practice, when we've developed a, you know, like a meditation practice or other kinds of mindfulness practices, then we can begin to draw on this skill. So what we're going to do next, let me see, in the chat, I'm going to put a link, you may have seen it earlier today, to this, what I call the Which Soul Trait Hint Sheet. So you can click on the link in the chat, and that should, or maybe you'll need to copy and paste it. That'll open it up. And what we're going to be doing is, so as I alluded to before, part of sometimes our equanimity being off is a symptom of some other soul trait that's actually the issue. You know, if I'm getting really mad in traffic, it's not, my equanimity's off, but the issue is not equanimity. The issue is, patience, that I need to work on my patience. So what I'd like you to do is spend a few minutes, and we're going to do some thinking and some, writing if you wish, trying to figure out what are some of these circumstances that push your buttons or put you outside of your equanimity. And then use this hint sheet to try to think about what is a soul trait which might be related to that. So this is a version of the hint sheet where, okay, I'm feeling, I find I'm always getting defensive, or I tend to be arrogant. And, so just trying to, and I know, Lorene, this is the first time being here, so some of this may be new to you. It's really, there's no right or wrong answers. This is just a tool to kind of help facilitate looking within. So take a few minutes and kind of think about what maybe what a soul trait is, and then we'll go into our breakout groups, and you can discuss with your partner kind of some of your insights.
Who are our partners? Have you given us partners?
I'm going to randomly assign them. And yeah, so let's see. Do people need another minute, or are you about ready to go to the breakout rooms?
Greg, I was wondering, you didn't put in there fear of consequences. Was there a reason for that?
It might have been just because we hadn't gotten there in the cycle yet.
Oh, okay.
but that certainly could be.
But I
could be
could
one.
choose that.
You certainly can. And there might be other soul traits, that are not on this list, generosity, for example. There's lots of different soul traits. So this is just, a starting point for discussion. And I usually just don't duck in, but I might try ducking into the different rooms if people have questions this week. All right, so there'll be probably 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. So I'm going to open the rooms. So you should see a little button on your screen that says join breakout room. And there we go. So how were your breakout rooms? This was sort of an experiment to try a bit of a longer, deeper exploration to connect kind of this trait of equanimity to some other traits. So I'm really curious to hear how it went. Did you identify any soul trait? And yeah, would love to hear.
So it's Karen. I don't have an exact answer to that, but in closing, I did want to share that I came across a couple of lines that do relate here, and I will think more of them going forward, and these are to help me. May I bear witness to things just as they are. May I let go of fixation. May I see my limits with compassion, just as I see the limits of others. And my way is not the only way. All beings have their own journey, and I have mine. This is from a woman named Ruth King, who is the founder of Mindful of Race Institute.
Thank you, Karen. Wendy.
Oh, I think Paul was first.
Okay, Paul.
We had a very engaging conversation, and I really appreciate that Lorene came. This is the first time, and I really appreciate what you've been bringing in. It was very refreshing. Well, one thing that I did, and Greg, I appreciate us having that time beforehand to really kind of prepare for it. As I wrote down from my most recent experience, the soul traits that were involved, I realized that maybe the intensity with which I was feeling what was going on, was a result of having a lot of soul traits that all got triggered off in this. That if it had just been one or two, it would have been annoying. But there were a lot that were, they were connected in some way, whether it was order and trust and honor being kind of thrown in there, among other things that just, it just made it very difficult. So that was one thing that came, from my experience that I shared. And then we talked about, equanimity and, how do we achieve that when the world is not a very friendly place sometimes. Yeah, I guess that's one way of putting it. And I really appreciated Lorene expressing something that I said was like being curious, staying curious about other people, and not assuming that I know what they are doing or why. And I don't know whether is curiosity one of the soul traits. If it's not, maybe it's an amalgamation. But I really appreciated that. So thank you.
It's not on the list, but you could definitely call curiosity a soul trait, because my rule of thumb is like, is this a soul trait? It's, well, if having too much and having too little both cause problems, then it's probably a soul trait.
I like that.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, Wendy.
Yes, I think we can be enthusiastically curious. So enthusiasm, curiosity. Well, I got to talk with Kathleen. She's new to our group here. It was amazing because each of us had to, we were each facing a pretty difficult challenge. And just like Karen said, that everyone has their own way to face the challenges in order to find equanimity. And the way that Kathleen faced her challenge was through order and humility. And the way that I faced mine was through patience. Oh, and trust too, for her too, was patience, trust, and fear of consequences. So everyone's different and has success, bringing about improving the world by finding equanimity within the challenges by using the traits. It all works. It's like math.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, it works to some degree, and it's and it really can help, and the results can be dramatic. And at the same time, it's not a magic wand. And as Paul brought up, the world is really, really tough right now. There's so many things that are going on, so many challenges, and again, it's not like we're not going to have emotional reactions to things. It's how can we be at peace with them? How can we surf through them? Speaking of challenges, my cat wants to come in the room. Hang on a second. I'm going to let him in. Other thoughts? But we don't all need to share, and I do have another reading that we can look at. Lorraine, I don't know if you're you're still on mute, so I don't know if you're trying to share here.
I wasn't on mute when we had our tripartite discussion. I'm just wondering what I didn't see in that list of soul traits. My daughter is being critical of me justifiably for being a people pleaser. And how do you have equanimity that does measure in on the one of barriers between yourself and others, having the proper relationship. I don't understand this very well. Is there anyone who can talk about it and elaborate to bring the understanding closer into sight?
You mean about how a soul trait that relates to people pleasing?
People pleasing, not having proper barriers, not respecting other people's barriers, where to draw the line between individuals or states or anything else. How do you do that? How do you have equanimity on that physical level, if it is the physical level?
I think it's probably like metaphorical boundaries as opposed to barriers. It's like, where is it? Like the old phrase, am I sticking my nose in someone else's business? Am I not, that's not one that we've looked at as a group. That was strength, but also like humility and honor both sort of touch on this issue. Would anyone care to comment? I think.
I was just wondering along those lines. I always have the feeling when I look at Mussar that they're not really interested so much in your faults, like if you don't have boundaries or something, because all of the traits are positive, basically. You're supposed to be working on your developing positive traits, and I get the feeling that maybe those other unfortunate ones will just go away as you develop the positive ones.
when does a positive trait become a negative trait and vice versa? If I want to please people, is it the way I do it? It can be a very good trait. On the
That's
other
true.
hand, I can do it in a way that is damaging.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's really, you know, as you get into, like, if you were studying, you know, humility, for example, you know, the mantra is no more than my space, not less than my place. And so, and honor, it's about honor and humility are both like, where is it about taking care of myself? Am I putting people ahead of me so much that my own needs are not getting taken care of, for example? Or is it that I'm not being true? Maybe it's around truth. Am I not being true to myself and who I am by putting this other person first? And so those are maybe a couple of ways to think about it. So I hope we're sort of about out of time today. And so, but I hope, you know, that's kind of a very short answer to kind of help thinking about it. Does that make any sense, Lorene?
I just think it can be difficult to see the reality of what we're describing here.
Mm-hmm.
Those differentiations and to even sometimes separate yourself from another person and stuff. You know, where do you, how do we perceive? I mean, you know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it can be really difficult, especially like we all have our challenges. And for some people, it's very intuitive. And for other people, it's like, wow, I don't even know where to begin. And I think, you know, the best answer I can give is to kind of start where you are, and to try to find like, what is that one next step? And it's like, you know, you've gotten a piece of feedback. Is that accurate? Is that not accurate? You know, there's a whole, it's a complicated issue, kind of bigger than we can solve here. But you know, but I hope you'll kind of keep joining us. And as we sort of go through these things, some of these answers start to come into
Equanimity.
yeah.
Wow.
So next time we'll be starting to look at the trait of fear of consequences. And so right now we're going to do a little meditation to kind of close our group. So once again, please close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as thoughts come into your head, once again, just let them go. Let's take a moment of gratitude for the other souls who joined us on this journey today. Let's include gratitude to ourselves for taking this time to put ourselves first. And to invest in our own spiritual development. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes.